Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone who's joined us here. A warm welcome to all of you who have just joined the webinar. My name is Mpumetele. I'm the founder of Kanyam Creative Solutions, a marketing communications agency, and I'm honored to host this important session today. So our webinar topic, as you know, is 2026 cash flow and budget forecasting masterclass. Plan, forecast, succeed. So we are stepping into a year uh, where clarity is no longer optional. It's a strategic advantage. So 2026 is approaching fast, and with economic uncertainty still shaping how we operate, one thing remains true. Businesses that plan intentionally, forecast accurately, and manage cash flow with discipline are the ones that stay resilient and grow. Today's masterclass is designed to help you do exactly that. Over the next hour, we will dive into practical tools, proven methods, and clear strategies to help you strengthen your cash flow management, build dynamic, flexible budgets, leverage real-time financial data, anticipate challenges before they happen, make informed, confident financial decisions, align your financial strategy with your 2026 organizational goals. Whether you are a finance professional, a business owner, or a leader responsible for financial planning, you are in the right place today. So, this session is intentional, interactive. So, please engage. I'd like to encourage you to engage. You can use the chat box. And also, if you are joining us from social media, please do comment on this live stream. So, thank you for investing your time in your growth and in the future stability of your own organizations. So let's welcome the first speaker that we're going to have today. Is from Proudly South African. She is an executive as Proudly South African. As you all know that this webinar is being hosted by Proudly South African. So let's welcome Janine van Straaten, to come and give us a Proudly South African overview.
Thank you so much, Program Director, and hello to everybody, my fellow speakers, and then all the attendees of today's webinar. I'm going to share with you my presentation, and it is just to give you a sense of Proudly SA, our mandate, and the work that we do, and to link it in with the topic of today, which I think is the perfect time as we all plan for the new year. Let me share that with you. Brilliant. And then just want to put it on presentation mode. Fantastic. Sure. So if I can take you through our mandate at Proudly South African, but first and foremost, my role at Proudly SA, I'm the executive responsible for strategy, stakeholder relations, and legal, which is a mouthful. But in a nutshell, my work at Proudly SA is really to guide all those procuring entities in the public and the private sector to buy local. And of course, when we do that, we present our membership base for reasons I'll share with you shortly. So our mandate as Proudly SA is really to lobby for those entities who are buying in the public sector, private sector, but very important, also the consumer. We also appeal to them to always look out for the Proudly SA logo when they do buy, or to look out for the Made in SA label of origin. We're a not-for-profit company, although I must say that we work very closely with the DTIC, and we have APPs, which are targets every year to fulfill in terms of, to realize in terms of the work that we do, because we do get grant funding from government for our operations. And it gives me great pleasure to take you through what we do. The importance of localization is also education that we share with entities, the buying entities in the public and private sector, but also you'll see that I'll make reference to PR campaigns that we do on social media, television, etc., which also appeals to the consumer. So the education around the importance of localization are in these following areas. So we really say that if you localize, you then play your part in retaining or creating jobs. You play your part in contributing to skills development. empowerment, economic development, improved living standards. I mean, if you've got a job, of course, your buying habits change significantly. It also talks to infrastructure development and increase in the GDP. And so that's the general education, which are very high economic terms, really. The general education we put out there. But it's important to note what is localization. I think that's a word that gets utilized differently by different entities, by different organizations, different individuals. But for us, it really talks about playing your part in really keeping the spend within the borders of the country. And in doing that, you will be creating jobs or retaining jobs. So throughout my slide pack, I'll take you through our efforts in localization, and we also then seek to look at other ways of localizing, whether it be to expand on your operations, create more shelf space for member companies of ours or local manufacturers. So I'll take you through all of those different elements that we consider to be localization and how to achieve it. So our tagline is Be Proudly South African, buy local to create jobs, which I think is a beautiful call to action and sets the tone for today. So I made mention of our three focus areas. It's all about education and lobbying within the public sector, private sector, and with consumers, but it also talks about promoting the accessibility of locally made products and services. The accessibility could also mean looking at, if you are budgeting and looking at all the equivalents that's available. I think you'll receive some good news today, because I think there's always that fallacy about South African products are expensive, and that's not necessarily true. It depends on how the companies position themselves. If you buy designer good versus if you buy something from a retailer that's a member company for ours, like Mr. Price, it's really how you pitch your products and your services. The way we sit in the ecosystem of business or MSMEs, which is the new term for SMMEs, but where we sit is we promote access to market opportunities. So that's what we do. That's how we spend our days at the office and outside the office when we lobbying and going for meetings. But the reason why I'm presenting the slide today is there might be callers. There might be attendees today that will require funding or other support outside of what you see today, information sharing, tax and statutory obligations, productivity assistance, compliance assistance. So those are really outside of our scope, and we can always introduce you to our stakeholders that are present or prevalent in these sectors and in terms of what they do. But for us, we promote access to markets, opportunities, and we do that specifically for vetted companies, which I'll share with you what that entails. So what do we do in terms of access to market opportunities? Now, I'd like you just to keep at the back of your mind that we do work with vetted manufacturers and vetted service providers. So they are the ones that can then benefit from what we have on offer. So with all the lobbying work that we do, the connection between the buyer and the member is really what we do. So we have a membership base that you should know about, and I'll introduce that to you in a bit. But what do you do in the private sector? So I think budgeting is very, very important, considering your cash flow. The times are rough, especially following COVID, as well as the looting and the floods, and all of those elements have really affected the companies and the businesses we work with. So even though we do have captivated audiences, we know that companies are in the business to source more local. Budgets and financials are really a great concern to them. So we then approach the private sector, and I think this is where the impact of the work that we do can probably be felt quickly and efficiently in terms of the impact of the work that we do. So we're asking the private sector, will you commit to localization? Will you commit to job creation? And we do. We've been obtaining commitments since 2018, and we have between 75 and 80 commitments over all the years that we've been doing this. And the spend sometimes is between 3 to 6 billion rand per annum in terms of big corporates, either individual corporates or on industry level, whereby they've given commitments to buy local. which is really, really wonderful. And this is our ask. And this also ties then into that question about what is localization. So what we ask of the private sector is to introduce procurement practices and policies aimed at increasing local procurement spend in their respective supply chains. So it could be that they might have purchased furniture from anywhere in the world, not giving a thought to where they get their furniture from. So we're asking them to almost, if you will, import replace. And what we do is we've got a lovely membership base of almost 3,000 companies, and we present them to the private sector so that we can promote competition within this industry in terms of competitive pricing, rather, because if you don't know what's out there locally, it's difficult to make that decision. And if you don't ask for quotes, you don't know what companies would charge. So I think that's very important to note. So we ask for the private sector to give that type of commitment, or it could be increasing levels of local content in terms of raw materials or components. So we've got an array of companies that are members. Hisense is one. We have clothing manufacturers, and they might be importing material, chiffon or such from abroad. We're asking them to seek local alternatives. And again, we've got a beautiful membership base to present to those in the private sector making those decisions. We also work with retailers. And interesting to note with the retailers, if you think about what the volume of product that they sell and store, etc., we're asking them to implement localization policies in terms of awarding shelf space to local manufacturers, but also to look and see what their procurement is all about for their own companies, whether it be cleaning materials or cleaning services, could be security, etc. We ask them to consider vetted manufacturers and vetted services providers for that task, and also look at the white labels, the house brands that we all come and know to love. Our viewpoint is that it's more expensive to bring materials in if it's locally available. It cuts out that transport cost, for instance. And then we also work with companies who have beautiful ESD programs, so enterprise and supply development programs, where we ask them to be cheeky and to include local content provisions in those agreements that they have with the beneficiaries, so that they can give back and keep the spend within the borders of the country. It also makes them more competitive within the market, we think, which equals out the playing field for everybody concerned. It's always good to have options. So if you look at commitments that we've garnered throughout the years in these different sectors, so banks, hospitals, schools, autos, retailers, manufacturers, the banks specifically have given beautiful commitments. We know specifically one bank, the Red Bank, if I not to name any names, but the Red Bank has since 2018 given us a commitment to only source locally made furniture. And they have confirmed that they've done so over the years. So it really is a phenomenal ask. As you can imagine, with the banks, there are a number of different banks throughout the country. It's got a national footprint and international sometimes. So we ask that they do the right thing and support local industry in doing so, which they have done. But we have really obtained various commitments from these industries, either at company or corporate level, or then looking at industry level. So we've all garnered these commitments, and I think what the takeaway is, when we did initially start this process, it was good to get the commitments. And I must tell you, we're following up on these commitments. So we've had meetings this morning talking about this. We've had meetings this morning whereby corporates have given us a sense of how they've grown in terms of their commitments, and they're offering us new commitments, which is wonderful. It's not just a talk shop; it's an actual project that they've embraced wholeheartedly, and it's very, very good news. So in the past, we did get these commitments, which is all good and well, but if we don't make it easy for corporates to stick to the commitments, it makes it difficult. So we have come up with a market access platform. We call it MAP for short. It really is a B2B matchmaking tool to promote localization. So it really is it's a place for corporate buyers to find locally vetted, high tested quality products and services in one place. So we vet companies before they become members, and those are the companies that are benefiting from the market access platform. I think the fallacy about local being more expensive is not true. It is a fallacy, rather. It's not more expensive that local products are more expensive, but we intend on making the sourcing of locally made goods cheaper and easier because we have this free platform for corporate buyers. And corporate buyers can find reliable and vetted, localized and transformed supplies on the market access platform. They can then, if they have their own preferential procurement targets, whether it be by locality, it could be a scorecard, it could be a category of person that they wish to procure from. So youth owned, black youth owned, women owned, black women owned, black owned, veteran owned, looking at rural companies based in rural areas, also disabled owned, etc. They can really um, uh, reach their targets by utilizing the free market access platform. And also size of business can also be a possible consideration for them when they procure. So we've got this wonderful platform in place to reduce supplying efforts in terms of finding local equivalents. It also allows corporates to record and monitor their localization procurement commitments, look at the socioeconomic impact that their decisions may have had on the specific businesses or just generally. Also reduce the cost of sourcing, I'd mentioned that, but also then be exposed to new players in the market. So we think this tool is really one to, it should be utilized by all corporates because it opens up your options. And I think it really does say that local is not necessarily more expensive. So of our 3,000 base, we've got 1,993 companies listed, and we almost have 300 buyers on the market access platform. So we are looking at reporting back on impact to say because of what corporate has realized in terms of their commitments, they've been able to grow the economy, they've been able to retain or create more jobs and support MSMEs, which is wonderful. And possibly even all their efforts. I know that for every rand spent locally, what you get back in terms of that money is much more than if you had to spend it abroad. You spend the 1 rand abroad and you might get something back, which needs replacement quite soon. So for every rand spent within the borders of the country, it's over 1 rand that you put back into the economy, which is amazing. The other elements, how we introduce our membership base to the private sector are through various initiatives. We have the Buy Local Summit and Expo, which is a wonderful B2B opportunity. It also has a conferencing element. So we talk localization over a 2-day period. We expose our beautiful membership base that spans 26 sectors. We introduce them to the private sector so that we can do our best to play our part in terms of keeping the spend within the borders and promoting local, creating more jobs in the process. We also have various e-commerce platforms that we partner, which is very exciting. So how we do that is we've asked all of the e-commerce platforms we know and love to allow our members to list for free, allow them to use the Proudly SA logo, the Proudly SA phrase. And then when we have days of observation, whether it be Mother's Day, Father's Day, Valentine's Day, festive season, Black Friday, that whatever campaigns we construct, we then guide them to those e-commerce sites that host our members' products. And that is a good indicator of what's available locally and in terms of pricing also. We also have the local wine expo. I mean, our country is probably the one where wine is still affordable. We're so lucky. And it's a beautiful industry. It's a massive contributor to job creation and also innovation and looking at the different categories of persons that is really emerging out of this industry is really phenomenal. Beautiful stories to be told, and in terms of all the jobs that are being created here. We also then buy space for our members at third-party expos and trade fairs. So if you're a business, you'd like to come on board as a member and participate in all these programs, we invite you to become a member. And all of these will be free of charge. All the benefits are free of charge for you. So, and these are all benefits that you can enjoy as a member of Proudly SA. We also have a website of local manufacturers and services providers. It is a golden database because it allows us to introduce you to buyers within the public sector, the private sector, and we get these. Hey, I'd like to buy Proudly South African. Do you have a member in packaging space or promotional materials, and we can always do those introductions. So it's a beautiful database to be a part of. We have the market access platforms. We have the platform. We have matchmaking, as I'd mentioned before, as well as the commitments. Looking what we're doing in the public sector. Now, this one is really a tough one because we have a procurement act for the public sector that's out now, but we are waiting with bated breath about the regulations. And that will dictate how government buys. And if you are in the government space, you would know that if you're looking at tender opportunities, RFQs, you need 3 quotes, and that's all got to do with pricing. You also need to if you're in the tender process, there's a bid evaluation committee, there's a bid adjudication committee, and the costing is 80-20. So 80% is the makes up the decision of who gets the tender opportunity, and that's all related to price. So we're allowing our members to be on the CSD. So that's the database for you if you want to do business with government. That's the database to be a part of. Our members can go on automatically by virtue of their membership. They must just tell us they want to be on the CSD, and we can put them on quite easily. The second phase of this integration will allow our members to call themselves local manufacturers, local producers, local service providers, so that when we go to the different entities, when we lobby for them to include local content provisions in their policies, so in their tenders, in their RFQs, that they know that the person buying for them, if that provision is in the tender, they know they must go and find the local equivalents. So according to National Treasury, we are the only entity that is considered to be a verified local content, a verifier of local content in terms of companies. So we're very excited about that process, and just keep in mind the pricing consideration that government has to go through in terms of them buying. We also monitor tenders, which is very exciting because we've been doing it quite manually for the last 7-8 years, and we are going to go through to an AI tool. So we're going to have each one of our members are going to have their own tender monitoring dashboard. It will allow them to extract tenders that government puts out by the virtue of the work that we do. So it equals out the playing field again, gives them an opportunity to participate and to benefit from government spend, which is very, very important. And then I have spoken about the lobbying work that we do, and those tenders that we pick up through our system. It allows us to know which entities are still playing ball, which are still including local content provision, even though designation is not on the cards as yet. And designation is about government as identifying specific products, specific sectors to force them to choose local. So we look forward to those regulations being brought to life again. The work that we do in the consumer space. So I'd mentioned our online stores where we partner our own other companies for our members to benefit. We have retail programs that are linked to the master plans and the commitments, the localization commitments I'd mentioned. Also, third-party expos, I'd made mention of that. So yes, it is a way for us to intervene with the private sector in terms of their procurement decisions, but also consumers, where we need to tell the stories for them to be introduced to local manufacturers, etc. We're also on social media campaigns, plus PR and media campaigns and activations. So our festive season campaign is looking to hero our members in the space when the festive season spend is really at play. So you might want to source poultry. So you might want chicken for your Christmas meal. And we then will guide you to find the local producers. So that's what our social media campaigns are all about. And then we have our website listings, sector-specific initiatives that we look at different industries that appeal to consumers. The Buy Local Summit and Expo, which is our flagship event, and then also the festive season and back-to-school campaigns, which are quite important. These are our e-commerce partners, so we're very proud of the work that we've done with them, as I'd mentioned before, but now we have Shop Proudly SA, which is an online store. It is B2C and has B2B capability now. It can, our members have their own stores within our bigger mall, our online mall, as we call it. But it allows consumers within the borders of the country to buy local, source our member companies' products from. Businesses can also buy, and we're also looking at eventually to utilizing this as a tool for export, which is slightly outside the scope of our mandate, but it would really, really be wonderful for those outside the border to have access to our members' product. I'm going to I'm going to skip the video because I think we're running out of time to showcase Shop Proudly SA's video, but I just want to make mention of the work that we're doing over the festive season very fast. We have launched our Loved Here, Made Here campaign. So remember I said our tagline is Be Proudly South African, Buy Local to Create Jobs. Now we are looking at a Loved Here, Made Here campaign, which really appeals to the consumer and to buy local is a lifestyle choice. So it is really, it's an instruction. Yes, buy local to create jobs, but this one is more emotional. And we're thinking it as a cultural movement that celebrates national pride and identity, which connects it to loved here. That's the emotional connection. Made here, that's the tangible impact. So it turns everyday purchases into acts of belonging and empowerment. So really, it's a lovely campaign, and I think it will resonate with South Africans because we all remember the stories. We've been through a lot, and it really the brands resonate with us, and the up and coming brands are now fully fledged brands, and we've walked the path with them. So we're looking forward to celebrating them as part of our campaign. So the objective is to encourage long-term behavioral change, boost sales and visibility, support local MSMEs, and create digital advocacy, because that's the easiest way to get our word out there, and also the most affordable, and also to build Proudly SA's brand, Proudly SA's brand of love. I think that's what I'd like to add to that. So the key sectors we are celebrating and supporting now is poultry, sugar, autos, agro-processing, manufacturing in general, because we all have gifts to wrap, if we're so lucky as to afford them, gifts to wrap for under the Christmas tree. So those are products mostly. I think vouchers are not really in, but those are products mostly furniture, clothing, textile, footwear, leather, travel, tourism, and hospitality, because some of us are fortunate to go on leave and on vacation and see the sea or just to rest and relax. So after the festive season campaign, we go to back to school. So as you can see, the beautiful image there, if you're looking at the mom and the daughter, there's lots of elements to consider. There's clothing, there's lunch boxes, what goes into the lunchbox, stationery, school shoes, you can just imagine. And we are really promoting our members in this space. And then I think very importantly, we are all very much aware that in January, we might have overspent in December. So we have a cabbage challenge that hits that predicament we find ourselves in, and how to overcome it. So we do hero the cabbage, which is probably a meat substitute, because you can really do some wonderful things with cabbage in the kitchen. And so we're rolling out the cabbage challenge. And what that allows us to do is to recognize the economic situation that a lot of South Africans are finding themselves, specifically in January, because of our spending habits. And apologies. And it really looks at utilizing other products to make cabbage more interesting. And I think it's a lovely indicator of other things in life. That's saying that if life throws you lemons, you make lemonade, and that's exactly what the cabbage challenge is going to be doing. So we're calling it the January campaign. So looking forward to that in January, just after Christmas time. So Loved Here and Made Here, that's our campaign. Please do support us. For those companies that are listening and are not yet Proudly SA members, just very fast, we do vet you in accordance with our 4 key criteria. So we look at local content. So where do you buy your raw materials? Where do you buy your components from? If you have to bring them into the country, where does the conversion of your product take place? Where does the value add happen? So it has to be within the borders of the country. So we look at local content. If you're a services provider, we're looking at you then supporting other companies, other local manufacturers and service providers. Also quality. So that logo is applied by only our active members. And anybody consuming or using it knows that product has been tested for quality. It's safe for consumption. It's safe for use. And if it's a services business, they might use it on their corporate marketing collateral. So we've vetted them and they're legit. So the trust element gets instilled again. We also check to see the companies adhere to fair labor practices and safe environmental standards. So that is the vetting process. It's quick, it takes a day, provided you give us all the documentation to support these 4 key criteria. You fill out a membership application form, and there is a fee payable, but it's very affordable. If you're turning over 5 million rand or less, your membership fee is 500 rand per annum. And as you grow, your membership fee will also increase, and maximum fee is 100,000 rand to us. That is if you're turning over 100 million rand or more. So I'd like to leave you with our ad, because that is the legacy that we'd love to leave behind. We're speaking on behalf of the private sector, the public sector, and consumers, and so it should be. So I'm going to leave you with the ad, and then I'll hand you back to our program director. Thank you.
There's a voice that is calling, loudly calling, day by day, the voice of the future.
When I started my business, all I wanted was to create jobs and a legacy for the next generation, because I see opportunity when others see impossibility.
It all started with a thought and then a seed in the garden, which grew into my very own farm that feeds the whole nation daily.
Cotton, silk, and a little bit of treasure, I create masterpieces that give South Africans an identity, comfort, and confidence, because when you look good, you feel good.
From the factory workers to the warehouse and then over the seas, I want to show the world what proudly South African looks like. It all started with just some ink on paper and inspiration to bring people together. With my furniture, I now help create spaces that are beautiful, comfortable, and authentic to human light and connection.
I've always been driven by curiosity. It fueled my dreams to create automobiles that accelerate our nation into greater possibilities and the beauty of the unknown.
I was born into a rainbow nation. My life has been full of colors and mixed flavors. And when I started my bakery, I wanted to share that joy with the world and with South Africans in particular.
All I ever dreamt of was to be a bird and fly high. And now I have the wings to help others fulfill their dreams of flying high too.
But it can only be a dream until you make it a reality. All they need is your faith, your trust, your loyalty, your appreciation.
And most importantly,
Your support
because supporting local businesses
Helps create jobs
and secures our future.
South Africa, their future is in your hands. So what are you going to do about it? Be proudly South African. Buy local to create jobs.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the hearts and applause. I appreciate that.
Wow, thank you so much, Janine, for that overview. We really now understand what Proudly South African is all about and the opportunities that are within the organization. Thank you so much, Janine, for that well-detailed overview. Yeah, so that was Janine, the executive from Proudly South African. Let me also encourage you to use the hashtag loved here, made here. Use this hashtag on social media to talk about this webinar and also just to post about anything that is related to the campaign, the Proudly South African campaign. Hashtag loved here, made here. Yeah. So the following speaker will be discussing the common budgeting failures and why they happen. So that will be Hensi van der Merwe. He is the founder and co-owner of Darling Sweets. Let us please welcome Hensi to discuss the common budgeting failures and why they happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Nompu. Thanks for the introduction, and thanks, Janine, for a wonderful talk. I have to start by saying that Darling Sweet is very proud to be part of the Proudly South African team, or the brand, and we really feel it's something we've benefited from over the years. I think we've been members since day one, which is 11 years ago. So thank you for the wonderful work that you do, and the inspiration and all the workshops you've done with us over the years. It's really helped us. So yeah, I'm talking about budgeting, and I'd just like to start out by saying, first of all my knowledge that I'd like to share with you, or that I'm wanting to talk about, is the result of my own experience. I'm not a trained, finance person or anything. So these are just kind of pointers that I've come to realize are important for us as a business, and hopefully, and maybe it will be helpful to share that today. So first of all, what I'd like to say about budgeting is that it's for me so closely tied together with cash flow and your costings, and then operations and sales. So all these different things I cannot for one moment think about budgeting without thinking about all these other aspects of the business. But before I talk, so what I'd like to do is talk about cash flow a little bit, talk about costings, which for me is really important, and operations and sales, because it's so closely tied up. But first of all, I think a little bit of a general discussion around budgeting and the pitfalls that I've discovered over the years. So, like I said, for me, a budget must be built on a solid costing sheet or a costings model. So that I will talk about just now, but for me, that's almost like the starting point of a budget. So, and then what is very important, I think, because you put together your budget at the beginning of the financial year, it's important to foresee, even though we're not always capable of foreseeing any kind of eventualities throughout the next 12 months, to try and gauge where are your vulnerabilities when it comes to drastic price increases. And that's got to do with resources like water and electricity, but also with your raw materials. And what sort of things can happen during the course of the next 12 months of your financial year that could cause any of those things you didn't budget for to go wrong. And in our case, for example, because we're manufacturing of toffees and caramels and fudge, so our key ingredients are butter and condensed milk. So these are all dairy products. So any kind of drought or any kind of animal disease or anything like that that can interrupt the supply chain of our raw materials can have a huge impact on our profitability, our budget, our cash flow, all these things. So for us, it's important that one identifies which of these things are possibly going to be a problem, and then look at importing those raw materials, because you can't, stop manufacturing as a result of that. So one needs to really think about building some fat into your budget for the vulnerable spots when it comes to also water and electricity and water. And then the other thing is to think about insurance, because that's something that you can always fall back on. If you can insure those vulnerable things, like also in terms of water, electricity, if you have a generator, make sure it's insured, that if the generator backs up, you can have it fixed if you don't have the capital lying around to do these things. So I hope that makes sense. I'd be very happy to continue a discussion afterwards. I'm just going to keep talking. And at the same, also very important, of course, as I've learned over the years, is do not, for one moment when there's lots of cash in the bank, use it for capital expenditure. That you think you can get away with 5,000 Rand because you need a new tool or whatever, or something you've really wanted to buy all along, and now all of a sudden there's money in the bank, but it's not in the budget. And at the same time, make sure that the budget, you have your capital expenditure budget and you have for cash flow for operations, and do not ever mix those up, because that can really impact on your cash flow, and then you have a problem. The other thing that I think is really important is that you must make sure that your budget is very, very closely aligned with your operations and sales, and that it's realistic. You cannot budget for, whatever, knowing or not knowing that in reality it doesn't materialize like that. You cannot budget for X amount of sales every month if if you're kind of hoping that it will get there, but you're not sure. So rather be conservative and make sure that what you think is possible in the next coming 12 months, budget for that. Don't put a wish list together, because that can go horribly wrong. In most instances, it does. And that's where I want to talk a little bit about lean manufacturing, because that comes into the whole operations and sales thing. Because if you conduct a lean manufacturing operation, then your budget is already much more safe, because lean manufacturing keeps an eye on wastage. That's the sort of core principle of that. So eliminating wastage in terms of your production processes, but also in terms of the productivity of your team, how they spend their time and so on. And that's why only you as the entrepreneur, the owner of the business who started this business, only you understand this business well enough to be able to put a budget together. So I think a big mistake people make is think, oh, budgeting is for the financial person in the company, or my uncle who knows about numbers. I'm going to ask him to give me a budget, and then he draws up the budget and you put it in your drawer and you never think about it for the rest of the year, because then you might as well not have done it. So what is important is to put a budget together that's realistic, and then that budget is like a guide for the next 12 months. So make sure that you check into the budget month on month to make sure, did I realize the turnover I was budgeting for? Were all the expenses that I budgeted for, were they correct? Did I spend too much? And then the other thing is, did I make the profit I was hoping to make on that month? And talking about month to month, it's really important that if you have a business that is seasonal, like most of us, we have seasons that are in manufacturing, because we are in manufacturing. So right now we are in our peak season because it's just before Christmas and we are in the kind of gifting industry. So we know that in the winter months, May, June, July, it's quiet. So my turnover will be, incredibly much less, as well as our profit and our expenses. So the budget, don't do just a budget for every month. It's really a very finely crafted document that then kind of guides you through the year to come and makes you feel safe in a way. So I'm going to quickly talk about costings, because for me, that's almost the cornerstone. It lies almost next to the budget as the foundation of our business. A costing sheet also helps you to draw up a realistic budget. And when it comes to costings, it's really important to take all costs into account. And with that, I mean not only your cost of sales, but also your overheads. And I think it's when it comes to the overheads that most people lose sight of things. So when you think about consumables, small things like toilet paper, cleaning materials, stationery, these are the things that one sometimes oversee, because you think, toilet paper, cleaning materials, the coffee and tea in the staff room, all these things, are they really making such a big impact on my profit margin? Well, they do, especially if you don't keep an eye on them and budget for them, because you think, okay, I can buy the staff room, I can just keep it stocked up with, coffee and tea, but it can run away with you, and it's like these little, hidden costs that eat away at your budget. So we build a very, very detailed costing sheet on Excel, which helps us a lot. And it's also broken up into the monthly expenses. So the overheads are very carefully worked out. Let's see where, okay. And then in terms of, because the important thing about a costing sheet also, it helps you to determine your break-even point. And if you know what is your break-even point in terms of your operations as a whole, but also if you know the cost of each individual SKU, then you can go to your client and give him or her a good deal, and yet you still know you are making profit, or you're breaking even, but this particular deal, because of you needed to cover your overheads, is an important one for you. But any other deals you make, those are where the profit lies. So it really helps you to keep a firm grasp on your profit margins and where they sit in terms of your operations and what SKUs. So it helps you to be a way more dynamic negotiator when it comes to making deals with clients. The other thing that I think is so important that we lose sight of is the true cost of capital. Because what happens is that we borrow X amount of money, and then we work with, that's the money, that we borrowed, but we forget that if we borrow it at a certain percent, interest rate, that we're actually borrowing a lot more than what we did. So those bank costs can really also interfere with your budget. So I think it's important to have a good relationship with your banker and also to negotiate, if possible, the best interest rate for your overdraft facility, because the overdraft facility, of course, is where we have our working capital. Well, at least I think in a lot of businesses, maybe not for everyone, but that's definitely how we operate. So the interest rate on your overdraft facility is really important. And of course, you want to try and get as big an overdraft facility as possible, but you want to use your overdraft facility to its maximum, but you do not want to always have it on completely depleted. You want it to go way back into the above the black line and then back into the red. You want to have it as a cycle. So that's where your management of your cash flow is so important. And then if you do this properly, if you budget correctly, if you manage your cash flow, you will never run into trouble. But if you do, we all know that there's people like Lulaland who are incredibly good at customer service and client relationship, but they are expensive. So if you go to them, again, know that your budget will be skewed as a result of that. And then just want to say, from our perspective, a healthy profit margin is very important. And we use online software that's free, like Omni Calculator, to work out a healthy profit margin when we work out the prices for our different SKUs. I just want to quickly check, Nompu, can you tell me how much time I still have? Okay, I'm not sure. I will then just keep talking. Nompu, how much time do I still have? Sorry, I can't hear you.
You have 5 minutes left.
Okay, thank you. Perfect. Then I will just talk a little bit longer. That's good to know. All right, I want to talk a little about operations, just quickly, because I think operations are so important, like I said earlier, because if you budget for something, you need to align it with a very efficient manufacturing processes. So again, when it comes to your suppliers, like with your banker, you want to keep a healthy, good relationship with your suppliers. You want to pay them on time, because there will be months when you can't pay them because your cash flow is in crisis, and you want to go to them and say, listen, and then of course you do want to go to them. You don't want to just ignore it and not pay them and for them to call you and say, when am I getting my money? You want to go to them and say, listen, I can't pay you right now. I'm going to pay you in 15 days time, or I'm going to pay you half now. And then they feel they're working with someone they can trust. And then they're also more ready to give you a better payment terms, because remember, if you can get up to 30 days payment terms with your suppliers, you basically have 30 days of an interest-free kind of loan, if you like, of that capital until you have to pay them. And the last few things I want to talk about is, for us in our manufacturing processes, packaging is very important, raw materials, and then commission. Don't forget to budget and to build into your costings module the commission for your salespeople, because that's another thing that is big. And then of course salaries, and there you want to have a strong team that is efficient and productive, because your salary bill is also something that it's really can eat away at your profit. So if you have a team that is demotivated and not efficient, again, it eats into your cash flow and your budgeting and all that. And then in terms of, and then logistics is also another big one. You want to make sure that you also have logistics as part of your budget. And again, increases in petrol prices affects your logistics bill. So you want to make sure that you also, when you budget, you can try and get a sense of petrol price increases. So build some extra fat into that. So yeah, I think that's my talk. I hope it was helpful. And thank you for the opportunity, Nampu. Nompu, you're on silent. I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. I'm saying thank you so much, Hensi. That was such an insightful discussion you gave us. Thank you so much. So that was Hensi van der Merwe. He's the founder and co-owner of Darling Sweets. He was just telling us and talking to us here in this webinar about the common budgeting failures and why they happen. So next in the lineup, the next speaker is Marnus Mostert. He is a certified financial planner and franchise principal of Consult by Momentum Waterkloof Park. So he will be discussing the 50-30-20 budget principle. So we cannot wait to hear from Marnus. We welcome you, Marnus. You can come in and then talk about the 50-30-20 budget principle.
Good, fantastic. Thank you very much, Nampu. Appreciate it. So from my end in my practice, I've dealt with numerous business owners over the last decade or so. And one thing I've noticed is that, yes, like NT mentioned, to sort out your business's finance and understand the budget and the cash flow and forecasts is extremely important. But what I've found, and I would assume a lot of our audience will be small business owners, sometimes you as the director or the owner, you are the business. And some common mistakes that some of the business owners make is that they, especially in the beginning part, they see the business's capital as their own money. So they sort of live out of the business, and that's one of the crucial mistakes. So my presentation, or my talk rather, will be sort of created around the business owner and not the business specifically. Because what I've found is that yes, your business may look healthy, you might have the right structures, but if your structure and what you've built in your foundation that you've laid in your personal life is of such a at a stage where that's sort of faulty, that spills over to the business in many cases. So I'm going to look at the individual, which is the business owner. And I know budgeting, whether it's in business or personal, it's not a very sexy topic, but hopefully if I can convince you on why a budget needs to be there, and then you follow a structure instead of just shooting blind, hopefully it will resonate with you and it will motivate you to start budgeting. I'll also end off by showcasing a tool that I've designed that is free to use for anybody to follow along with the structure. So first of all, why budgeting? Why is a budget important? Well, think about if you build a house, you buy a piece of land, you're excited, you're now going into building your own house. So imagine putting up the windows first. I'm assuming everybody is like, that won't work. Well, let's put up the roof first. Well, a roof can't stand without walls, but equally so, walls can't stand without a foundation. So whether again in business or personal finance, a budget serves as the foundation for whatever it is that you are or not going to achieve. If your foundation is unhealthy, I promise you I can point out various aspects in your business and in your personal life where you are not succeeding financially. So let's get into why normal budgets fail for individuals. Most of us, I've been guilty to this as well, is we sort of flying blind. We've got an Excel spreadsheet basically showing what are our expenses, what's the income that we're getting. But that is not really a budget, is it? Because it's more a way of keeping tabs on yourself. All it really tells you is that I get this much money and this much money is flowing out. It gives you no structure. It gives you no indication whether or not you're spending money in the right places. And as we know that nowhere throughout school, university, anywhere, do people actually teach us about basic personal finance matters. So if you're following a budget that's on an Excel spreadsheet, to me, that will just create inconsistency And like I say, it gives you no clear direction of where your path must go. So, and that's in my opinion why budgets fail. So in my view, I follow a structure in my personal life. It's also something that I share with my clients, whether it's business owners or just on the personal side. Is a structure called the 50-30-20 principle. So we've all got creative minds. I want you to imagine 3 different buckets. So the first bucket is a needs bucket. So it means that 50% of what you earn or pay yourself goes into this needs bucket. So I want you to imagine you've got water, but you've got X amount of water. That's the money that you now earn. You need to now divide your money to pay for things in life, simply put. So in this 50% bucket, I want you imagining you pouring some of the water that you've got into this 50% bucket. Now, what is the 50% needs bucket? Think about whatever it is that we as humans absolutely need to survive. We need food. We need shelter. We need medical aid. We need certain insurances. We need to communicate with people, so cell phones and those type of things. All of those vital things for human beings comes into the 50% needs bucket. Okay. The second bucket that we've got is a wants bucket. So 30% of your money gets allocated to the wants bucket. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is the fun bucket. I'm literally telling you that you can take 30% of your income and spend it on whatever you want, whether it's eating out, whether it's fancy clothes, whatever floats your boat. You can even buy the boat if you want to, as long as it's 30% of what you earn, right? And then what's left, of course, is our future self. And not only our future self, but we're in business, there's emergencies, there's cash flow issues that come up. So where does the other 20% fall? This is savings, not only for the long term, but also for things like emergency, etc. So we've got, just to recap, and I'll show it on the screen in a second, we've got 3 buckets in an ideal world. 50% of my money I'm pouring into the things I absolutely need as a human being. 30% of my money I am now pouring into this bucket where I can splurge on it whatever I want. And 20% that's left over, I'm saving for either the future me or then if there's any emergencies to ensure that the sustainability of the business lasts and even in my own household. Why is this so important? Why is it 50-30-20? Because back to the example that I've used on using an Excel spreadsheet with column A being expenses, column B being the income that you earn. It doesn't tell you a story. It's not an accountability partner. It does not show you whether or not you're spending your money in the right areas of life. So it might be that blindly so, you're mismanaging your money. Might not even be your fault. In some cases, it will be. That's what the structure will tell you as well. If you're a little bit naughty on the one side, it will actually tell you that you're according to your income, you're exceeding on your wants, spending too much money eating out, etc. But certainly, if we're flying blindly, again, it will not really get us anywhere. So the structure keeps us accountable and it keeps us honest. So if, and many of us are guilty to it, if you are one of the people that's trying to keep up with the Joneses, you won't like my tool because it will tell you that. So let me go into that quickly and I'll show you guys exactly how the tool works. Let's go share there. Nom, so somebody, can you please confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen, Marnus.
Wonderful. Okay, so my passion and my secondary business is an online channel called Ask Mustard. My surname is Mostert, so that's where the Ask Mustard comes in. And this is one of the various tools that I have to showcase. One of them is, of course, the 50-30-20 budget principle. So I'm just going to use a quick example here to show you guys how easy it is to overspend in the wrong places and the effect of that. So let's say I earn 30,000 Rand a month. And if you're all happy with it, I'll go, I'm 35 years of age and I'm looking to retire by age 65. Okay, here's the 3 buckets that we've got. Bucket number 1, like I mentioned, is our needs at 50%, our wants at 30%, savings at 20%. So for example, like I mentioned, a crucial part of being a human being, we need a roof to live, right? So let's say I spend 10,000 Rand a month on rent. I have to, of course, pay electricity, which is 1,500, and let's say I spend 4,500 Rand on groceries. Okay. I'm a not so proud 18 handicap golfer, so let's just say I want to improve. So I'm going to spend quite a bit of money on my golf this month. So I'll put that at 5,500 Rand. Have to, of course, take the wifey out every now and again. So we'll put a 3,000 Rand there. And maybe I like some expensive clothes and I had to travel a little bit. Okay, so now what's left in my budget, and let's say I want to plan for my emergency fund to ensure there's no emergencies, is only 2,000 Rand. If my math is correct, yes, it is. Okay. So in my current circumstances, I'm paying 16,000 Rand, as you guys can see there, into the needs bucket. I'm spending 12,000 Rand, which is 40% of my income instead of 30 on wants. And then, of course, it should be 20% for savings. I'm not really spending a lot there. I'm spending 2,000 Rand a month, which is 6.7% of my income. Let's see what's the effect of that. Okay. So on my specific salary of 30,000 Rand, the ideal allocation is actually 15,000 Rand a month in needs, 9,000 in wants, and 6,000 Rand in savings. So like I've mentioned earlier, budget is not, it's not a sexy topic to talk about, but often if we manage to look at something, we take off the blindfolders, we look at something different and we understand the outcome of one of our actions, it becomes a lot more powerful. So if I were to restructure my budget to fit into this specific metrics, look at the result come retirement. If I save my 6,000 Rand a year for the next 30 years, I've got 14.2 million Rand extra at retirement. The tool will then show you've got obviously too little in savings. So these are some of the recommendations the tool will make in order to tell you, how to increase that or improve on that figure. But if I just talk about a budget, and if I just say to you, please budget, it's important to understand what's coming in, what's going out, wada, nobody will actually do it. But if you understand that the cost of the effect of you not understanding what's happening in your budget could literally translate into millions, and the difference between retiring successfully or becoming financially free or never, that could be hidden right within your budget. Later on, you can put the windows, the walls, and the roof and make the garden pretty. But if the foundation is unhealthy, how are you going to actually do that? That's why a structure keeps you accountable, number one. And number two, it gives you something to work towards. And at least then you cannot say, but I never realized this. Because in my circumstances here, if I'm 40%, so I'm 10% over in the wants column, I can easily say, was it really needed to go out 3 times? I can maybe cut that to 2 times. Maybe my entertainment was a bit rough with the golfing this month. Let me make this 4,500 Rand. All of a sudden, I've got another 2,000 Rand to spend in this one. It was not that hard. But if I'm not aware, if I'm not understanding where my money goes and flows, good luck figuring it out on a simple spreadsheet. So if anybody, whether you're a business owner or somebody just on the personal side is interested in a tool like this, you can visit this page. You'll see that it is askmustard.co.za/money and, but the and is just an N and a D. It's not the A. Money and mustard. And if you subscribe to the free newsletter, the tool, by the way, is also free. The first email you get is actually the budget tool, because like I mentioned, that's where the foundational part of somebody's financial journey should start. So hopefully I've added a little bit of value in terms of us understanding why a budget is important, but not only why it's important and where it fits in, how it can impact your future tomorrow, instead of just seeing it as this thing to keep tabs with every single month. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marnus. That was really insightful. This was incredible. So thank you so much for sharing the 50, 30, 20 budgets principle. I'm sure other people who are joining the webinar have learned new, they've gained new insights from your discussion. So thank you so much. So our next speaker, our last speaker in this webinar, will be discussing the budget tracker for the first 3 months of 2026. That is Taryn Gill, the founder of the Perfect Hair Sunpack. Taryn, you can come in. Let's welcome Taryn. Oh, you are on mute. You are on mute.
Good day, everybody. Thanks to Proudly South Africa for having me. So as I understand, I think it's just the right time of the year to be discussing this type of content. And it's not usually my forte. I often speak about brand building. I speak about what I've been doing for most of my life, which is marketing. But my products are, sorry, one second. My products are all and always have been proudly South Africans. I've been in the stable for quite some time. I do tend to fly my proudly South African banner quite high. And I think what I'd like to do is just jump straight in. I'm going to be sharing my screen. One second. Shucks. I wish I had some help here. Sorry, I'm just experiencing a bit of a problem. One second. Apologies for the delay, people.
Okay, all right, Taryn.
There we go. Can you confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen. Thank you.
Okay, great. Is everything clear? Are we on slideshow?
Not yet. We are not yet on the slideshow.
All good?
Yeah. Now we are good. We are on the slideshow.
Okay, great. So from the perspective of what I do, I build brands predominantly in the beauty space, and I'm moving into the health sector, where we're going to be producing a range of wellness products, what we're calling the drink mix revolution, where we create as much of an impact around the hydration, energy, cognitive performance category as possible. I think the days of heavy protein shakes are limited. People will be moving towards these kinds of drink mixes that can be played with. So from my perspective, I've always, like I say, been producing brands that have always carried the Proudly South African logo, and I've been producing retail products for about 12 years now. My hair products, the Perfect Hair, Curls in Bloom, Super Curl, are retailing nationally. And once they get to a certain age, I sell them off to relevant partners. So it's not a traditional model in the sense that I can see it with a lot of my competitors. I tend to build them, to sell them, and then start again, build the next one and sell it on. So quite a few of my beauty brands sit in the Sunpack stable, and I'm currently looking at finding the right partner for my product called Wealthy, which is a health product. From the perspective of being a part of this discussion, I'm going to just talk very quickly, I know I'm the last speaker, on why I think entrepreneurs need a budget tracker. It's because often, I think, especially those of us who come from a creative background, media background, where we're creating products, calculating our finances is not often our strongest point, and we need just some very basic points that we can absorb, as whether you're young in the game, whether you're long in the tooth. You're kind of just needing to be reminded, especially at this time of year when you are deep in planning, that for example, Q1 is the most important time for cash discipline. So while you're looking at all your New Year's expenses and your reduced kind of festive season revenue, if that applies to you. You've also got to be doing early planning and renewed marketing activity. For a person like me, 12 years in, I'm going into a huge amount of marketing activity and launch phase for a new product in the new year. We often just need very simple structured tools that can give us a glance into our business without having to rely too heavily on our accountant to explain what the heck is going on. It's important that we track what actually happens and not what you think is happening, and be able to adjust for short-term, quick, in-the-moment decisions that are in real time. So I like the idea of the budget tracker because it gives a certain amount of visibility and control and financial confidence to those of us who, like me, I do rely on the accountant quite a lot. What you really want is a document that doesn't sit in a folder somewhere, but rather turns your budget into a kind of learning tool. It's something that you actually want to get cozy and comfortable with. You want to be comfortable with how it's laid out. You want to be comfortable with the framework. And you want it to be able to guide you on important decisions so that you're not relying entirely on an external voice, or you're not just going in blind. So the nice thing about budget trackers, keeping them simple and obviously having them laid out in a way that you can easily access, in a way that you can easily read, in a format that you feel as an entrepreneur comfortable with uploading, adjusting, and making it talk back to you. It's going to answer all of the questions, I think, that are relevant, that will give you a bit more confidence and visibility. So can you afford to scale at this point? What exactly are you needing as a cash buffer? How do you present this type of cash flow to a potential investor or to a kind of Lula lender or micro lender? Do you need to delay spending? Are there leaks? Are you heading for some kind of crunch point? When you're looking at revenue targets for every month, you can often go a month or two and just not actually realize how far off the mark you've gone. You can also kind of project your launch dates more clearly and more accurately, rather than thumb-sucking them or determining your launch dates or your promotional dates or your 3-for-2 pricing dates based on what the retailer tells you or based on what an external client or an events calendar tells you. It'll also keep you far more closer to seasonal effects. So while some businesses might have impacts on supply chains, for example, dairy, as was mentioned, I have very keen or very cause and effect types of impact with season. So winter purchasing for beauty and wellness products will look very different to summer purchasing. And those types of seasonal impacts can be monitored more closely, and you can actually work with them rather than against them. If you've got a very simple tracker sitting somewhere right up close in front of you, something that you're kind of talking to every day, uploading every kind of second or third day, or at least touching base with it on a weekly point, like a Monday. And all it's going to do is just simply be a document that you as the entrepreneur can glance at daily that says, this is the cash coming in, this is the cash going out, this is the surplus or deficit, this is my cash on hand. It's going to also kind of highlight where you've got a delayed payment or an unexpected cost or some kind of debt creeps in. So it literally is just your opening balance then becomes the cash that you start the month with. The closing balance at the end of this little spreadsheet you've done for yourself becomes the opening balance for the next month. So it does give you a little bit of a kind of, it's your shock treatment. It's where you kind of learn to pull yourself out of the daily semantics and just, even if it's once on a Monday, go in there and say, okay, how far off am I? What happened last week? And how can I kind of learn from what's going to be happening in a month? It's really simple. You're literally going to be just putting your income into your budget, your actual and your variance. The variance is a good idea to do because it's going to show you where you're leaking. It's going to show you, I think, just in a very simplified format, where you're going off. And your income, as we know, is your sales revenue, your retainers, your once-off payments, your grants, whatever's coming in. Your expenses, whether it's fixed or variable, your inventory, your production, your supplier costs, your manufacturing, your distribution, whatever that may be for your business. And just to remember that your closing balance then becomes your opening balance for the next month. I think with these types of tracker takeaways, and you should be comfortable to be using them in a format that can live very easily on your desktop, whether it's in Excel, a Google Sheet, whatever's going to work for you. And just go in there every Monday or set yourself a day or an hour where you just learn, force yourself to get to grips with your numbers. And always project 4 weeks in ahead, because I think that is also key to making sure you don't get into trouble. Keeping receipts and invoices digital and being able to course correct monthly using this type of document. And from my experience, I think it's been probably the most important thing that's helped me to adjust decisions in real time. Because if you're a single entrepreneur where a lot of the business is running in a separate company like mine, and I've got 4 or 5 brands running with different partners, it's very important for me to be able to adjust in real time and keep reminders to myself on what the targets are, because it is definitely a way to keep your eye on the prize. That's all from me. If there are any questions, I'd be very open. Mpumelelo?
Thank you, Taryn. Thank you so much. I don't see any questions as yet. There are no questions. You can ask the questions, just write in the chat box or in the Q&A button. Write your questions if you have any questions. But at the moment, we do not have questions. Yeah, so thank you so much. Thank you so much, Taryn, for just discussing the budget tracker for the first 3 months of 2026. And I am so excited when I heard that you are also a fellow marketer, because I'm also in the marketing space. So I got really excited when I heard that. And congratulations on becoming a member of Proudly South African. That is really great. So yes, are there any questions? You can let me check. Oh, there are no questions as yet. So if there are no questions, I would like to conclude today's webinar. As we conclude the webinar, I would like to thank each and every one of you for your engagement, and your willingness to think differently about planning for the year ahead. I'd like to thank the speakers that were here and shared their insights about the cash flow and budget forecasting in this masterclass webinar. So thank you very much, our respected and honorable speakers that were able to share with us. So yeah, that's how we close today's webinar.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Happy holidays and have a prosperous 2026, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.